Hi, friends. I wanted to illustrate this week's podcast because I feel visually it is very helpful. Habits are hard to break because your brain wants to always go back to what it knows. I learned this during dialectic behavioral group therapy. I had an awesome therapist that talked about this cornfield concept, and I wanted to give him credit. So, Chris, thank you for the lesson, and thank you for telling us to teach others. Here you see a cornfield. I'm asking you to describe the cornfield. Think about how you would walk through this cornfield, what it would feel like. Would the stalks of the corn feel stiff or hard to move through? Would the ground be rough from the plow? Are there bugs? Now that you may have thought of some of those answers to the questions for yourself, the answer, I'm sure, is very different for each individual, but the cornfield is probably hard to walk through. So I just wanted to give you an example of that first. Keep that in the back of your mind, of what this cornfield feels like physically. So imagine you have started a habit. I'm going to lead with negative habits. These could vary from addiction, fighting, picking incompatible partners, crying, eating habits, any habit. We're going to walk through this cornfield by starting at a point. And in my example, you want to imagine having this habit over several years. So for me, we're going to use overeating or stress eating, and having put on many pounds over several years. As you can see, walking through this cornfield, we've created this habit over years, and a path is being made. The path starts to become familiar to our brains and is becoming easier, for example, for me to keep eating and walking the same path every day. As a result, my brain is so familiar with this path that I don't even know or think anything about it. I don't even think to start over in this cornfield or to try to get off the path that I have created. And why would I do this? This path is now smooth, worn down, and so familiar that I can probably walk it in my sleep. I have probably worn this area of the cornfield down so much that bugs cannot even live in the path or cross it, that I've walked it so much. And it's at a subconscious level, so it's going to always be there forever. My brain is always going to want to stay on this path. But if we decide consciously to start in the cornfield in a different spot and not take this familiar path, we can change this habit. But only if it was that easy. We know that it took years to build the path in the first place. We know that the brain absolutely wants to go back. And in my example, we'll say that I joined Weight Watchers and I've lost 15 pounds, but it's only been 6 months on that new path. So we're going to start in a new place in the cornfield and start this new habit, and hopefully improve. We may make progress and hit a trigger. So in my example, I get stressed over family and finances, and I turn to unhealthy food choices once again and gain 7 pounds. Knowing that familiar path, and when that happens, I need to look at a few things. So what are some things that I need to put into place to make sure that when I am triggered, I don't go back to old habits? What would I have to stop? What would stop me before getting back onto this old path? Like recognizing that I'm emotionally eating and that this comes on suddenly and doesn't represent hunger, which comes on slowly. Being mindful of what I'm eating. Am I enjoying it, or do I feel guilty? So those are some examples of maybe just being aware and trying to catch myself early on. You can also use your DBT skills to reduce stress or work on emotional regulation, which is a big part of this area for me. So those are some tips. But guess what? We can still start in a different place even after going back to our old habit or that old path. It is okay that I had a trigger or that you have a trigger. I simply accept this, but want to make sure that I start back on that new path again. I know that it could be 5 or 10 years that can pass by and my brain will still want to go back to that old path. We just need to make sure we're always aware of what the triggers are and that we have in place a plan to prevent those things from putting us back onto that old path. So really focus on the preventative part. So I encourage you to pick your habit, know your triggers, put things in place to prevent going back to the old path, start somewhere new in the cornfield and know that it's hard, seek support if you need it. Understand that your brain is always pushing us back to what it knows even years later. So friends, remember to try to do something different or new for yourself to make your life better. Thanks for listening. Give me a like if you've enjoyed what you've heard today. Take care.